welcome back to We the People Prepping. This is Dan. Hope you all can see me. I'm trying to get a little more light on it. I've had some people say that my videos were a little too dark, but listening to the news earlier made me kind of laugh. You know, apparently the people of the United States aren't worried about the virus. We're not worried about the economy. You know, we're not worried about our jobs. We're not worried about, you know, the shutdowns. None of this stuff. Apparently, what we as a people, or at least what our representatives say that we are worried the most about, is a bill that they passed in the House and Congress today. Basically, it takes gender out of all congressional bills, laws, so forth. You're no longer allowed to put mother, father, you know, son, daughter, aunt, uncle, you know, man, woman, any of those things into any bills in Congress. Okay, it cannot have those words in any bills that are brought to the floor. So basically, that's what we're worried about. We're not worried about the state of the world and what freedoms we're losing and all of that. We are worried, apparently, about gender. We are so concerned about the words that are used rather than the actions of the bills and so forth. You know, it's all about being politically correct now, people, right? I mean, that's what we're concerned about. We're concerned about not offending anybody. We're concerned that, you know, if we put he or she or, you know, mother, father, daughter, son, any of those words into our congressional bills, that we're going to offend somebody. You know what? I don't give a fucking rat's ass. I'm sorry for the language, but hey, that's how I feel. You know, I am, and I'm sure most of you out here are more concerned with, you know, being locked down, the virus, the economy, losing our jobs, losing our homes, you know, the things that apparently, you know, our elected officials don't think that are really that important, because they waste their time on stupid bullshit like, you know, whether or not a bill can say, you know, the mother is allowed to do this or isn't allowed to do that, or she can or can't do this, or he can or can't do that. Those are not things we're worried about. But all these idiots in the government, that's what they think we're concerned about. I don't know about any of you guys, honestly, but myself, no. I've got bigger concerns, like my freedoms being taken away, you know, my livelihood being taken away, being forced to do stuff I don't want to do in a country that's supposed to be free. You know, these are the things that I'm concerned about. You know, not whether or not somebody takes offense to the words in a bill. Okay, that's just... Oh my Lord. How much further down this rabbit hole are we going to go? I mean, I don't care about your sex, about your gender. You know, I don't care about your sexuality. I don't care about your skin color. I don't care about any of that. Okay? I don't care about your religion. Okay? I think that everybody should have the right to worship as they choose, or to leave it be if they choose not to believe. You know, I don't really care about any of that crap. That is not what's important. I mean, I'm worried about the health and well-being of this country and the people therein. And we need to send that message to our elected officials. Let them know, look, we're not worried about all this bullshit that you guys keep voting on that has absolutely nothing to do with anything that we want. Y'all need to either step up and start representing what it is that the people of this country want and need, rather than language or race. Okay? Yes, there is racism out there. It swings both ways. I have been a victim of racism. You know, I'll tell you a little story. After my grandfather passed away and I wound up back with my parents, and then my father went to prison. Okay, I wound up, my grandmother had sold the farm and moved to California. Well, you know, I was just a little backwoods hick country boy. I'd never thought anything about race. Nobody had ever said anything to me about race. You know, as far as I was concerned, everybody was the same. You know, I moved out to California with my grandmother, and we're living out there in Reseda, California. And I made friends with this little girl at school. Okay, we got along great. We played together. We had a great time. I didn't see her skin color. I didn't care about her skin color. Okay, well, she told me that she wanted me to come over to her house. Okay, well, she just lived right down the road from me, you know, and, you know, this was way back in the day. And, well, anyhow, I walked down the street as a little kid, you know, it was, like I said, just down the street from me. And, things were different back then. The little kids, you didn't have to worry as much as you do now, but I walked down to her house, and I knocked on the door, and her mother answered the door, and basically I got turned away because of the color of my skin, and I got called a lot of vile names by this woman, and she forbade her daughter to ever play with me or talk to me again. Well, you know, I didn't know that part of it until the next day at school. You know, I went up to talk to my friend. I didn't think anything of it. You know, I was willing to let everything just be, you know. But when I went up to her to talk to her, you know, on the playground, she told me that she was not allowed to play with me or talk to me, that I was the devil, and that if I tried to talk to her, she was supposed to tell the teacher that I was harassing her and so forth. But you know, I'd never been taught nothing about racism, not my whole life. You know, I mean, up until I moved out to California, I'd never seen a black person, and I just didn't really notice the color. I noticed the person. You know, it was one of those things. I was a naive, innocent kid. I knew nothing of hatred because of skin color. I didn't know anything of hatred because of sexuality or nothing like that, you know. But that was my first taste with racism, you know. So everybody wants to claim that only white people can be racist. I'm sorry, but my experience has told me otherwise. Now, you know, the racism, yes, is an issue that we should address in this country. We really should. But the language of, whether or not they put gender in a bill, you know, I don't care. I don't care what verbiage you use, all I care about is what's in the bill. Okay, is this something that is going to restrict my rights, take away my rights, give me more freedom, which is highly doubtful because the government does not like to give freedoms back once they've taken them. But I don't care about any gender, verbiage in a bill. Okay, I doubt highly that anybody else out here does. So why are our elected officials wasting their time on this nonsense when there is so much more pressing matters to take care of? Why would you waste your time on that? That was time that would be better spent, dealing with the virus, dealing with the economy, dealing with the lockdowns, the restrictions of freedoms, I mean, there's a wide variety. Protecting the elderly. I could name off hundreds of things that are so much more important for our elected officials to concern themselves with and to waste their time on. I mean, these people, all of them, really, need to be ejected from office and never allowed to step foot in a position of power like this again. I mean, when you're wasting the taxpayers' time and money on nonsense, you have no business being in that position. And the sad part is that we keep voting for the same people. Because this is who they put out in front of us. Okay? We need to change that. The parties should not be the ones to promote who we would vote for or not. This should be something that's left up to the people, not the parties. Okay? We should have full disclosure of if they've held office, we should have full disclosure of everything that they did in the time that they held that office. Okay? That way we can make an informed decision as to what this person is really about. But no, we let them throw out these candidates to run for these offices that most of us have no clue who the hell they really are. We have no idea what their real agendas are because we've not got to see their records of what they did, how they voted, and all that kind of stuff. This is not the way that our forefathers had intended for this country to be ran. And the sad part is, a lot of the blame falls on the American people for accepting this. We just blindly accept that this is the way it is, and we don't do anything about it. Well, it's time to change that, people. Because if these are the pressing concerns that they are wasting our precious tax dollars on, we don't need them. I mean, have any of you ever sat down and looked through the laws? Don't even have to be federal laws, just state laws, and seen how stupid some of this stuff is. You know, there are laws on the books that should have been removed years ago. Honestly, there are. They have nothing to do with our society now. Like, I looked through some of the stupid laws. Like, there was a law in the books where my vehicle has to be tied to a hitching post when parked on a city street. Okay, um, that's something from back when we did horse and carriage. Why is that still on the book? That should have just been taken out and thrown away. You know, it should have been null and void. You know, there are, where was it? In North Carolina, I think it was. Don't quote me on this, but I'm thinking it was North Carolina. They have a law in the books that says that if a man and a woman share a hotel room, they have to be married. Okay. There's another law that says that if a man and a woman sign into a hotel as husband and wife, as Mr. and Mrs., that legally, after they do that, they are legally married. You know, come on. You know, there was a law, I think it was in California, where if a woman had her toothbrush at my apartment and at least 3 articles of clothing, I think it was, that we were considered common law married. You know, I mean, this is how stupid some of these laws are. You know, it's dumbfounding to me, honestly. They passed some of the stupidest laws. You know, you go through just your state laws, and I guarantee you will find laws that make absolutely no sense for our society. And then when you start going through federal laws, it will blow your mind when you look at the federal laws that are in place that have no bearing on our society, or in reality, they restrict your rights under the Constitution. You know, I mean, just gun laws alone. Whoops, I said the G word, you know. Just those laws alone, though, all of them are in violation of the Constitution. I don't care what the Supreme Court says about it. I care about what the Constitution says. And any law against the Second Amendment, against the bearing of arms, is a violation of the Constitution. Because in there, it says that this shall not be infringed upon. Okay? So, infringing on your right is the making of laws that restrict your rights. Okay? There is no other way to look at that. The forefathers of this country, the founding fathers, knew exactly what they were saying. They knew, and there was no room for interpretation here. Okay, you are not going to interpret what their intent was, because their intent was for us to be able to overthrow a tyrannical government. Okay, now if you are going to restrict what arms we can bear to do that, then that is infringing on our rights. Because according to the Constitution, we have the right to bear any arms, basically. It doesn't say, well, you can only own a squirrel gun, or, you know, you can only own a musket. It says arms. Okay? So, under their logic, we're only supposed to have squirrel guns. Okay, well, if you want to use that logic, then you can't use television for political ads. And you have to go back to an old style printing press, or better yet, at the time that it was written, I mean, they had the printing press, but let's go back to making them have to do everything with a quill pen and an inkwell. Okay? Now, the government is only allowed, the whole point of the Constitution was to restrict the government, and that we should be able to have the same things that the government has in order to maintain our freedom. But see, that's not the kind of stuff that they're concerning themselves about. Oh no, according to them, the American people, me and you, are worried about how they word things, how they word gender. Okay, they think that we are concerned as to whether or not a bill says he or she or mother or father, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, grandma, grandpa. You know, are we really worried about any of that? I want my freedom back. You know, I want to be able to go back to the way it was when I was young. When I was young, you could walk into a hardware store. Didn't have to show identification or nothing. Point at the, pew-pews that you wanted. Tell them, hey, I like that one. I'd like to have that. You know, they would, tell you the price, sell it to you. You walk right out of there with it. No problems. You know, when I was in school, hell, I went to school with a shotgun in the back window of my pickup truck. A shotgun and a rifle, actually. Parked it in the lot at the school. You know, these dumbass laws, like these gun-free zones, which, by the way, was Biden's idea. Oh, Lord, I shouldn't have said that, should I? But anyhow, it was him that got that legislation passed. Okay? All you did was announce that everybody in that area is unarmed. It's like shooting monkeys in a barrel. Or fish in a barrel, if you prefer. I was just thinking about the monkeys in a barrel game from when I was a kid. You know, I guess a lot of you might remember that game. You know, the younger generation would be like, "What the hell was that?" It was a time from before there was electronic games and stuff like that. You know, where you had to actually use your imagination to entertain yourself. Which, oh my God, kids shouldn't have to entertain themselves using their imagination. They should have all of the newest tech, all the newest video games. They shouldn't have to be out there trying to, play kick the can or, Red Rover or, any of those games like tetherball. Oh my God. They might get some exercise. They might actually exert some energy doing something. We can't have them doing that. They might get hurt. I mean, look at how many times I got hurt as a kid. I mean, I'd wipe out on my bike. I'd get right back on, dust myself off, try it again. We would see what we could jump with our bikes, how big of a ramp we could make, and what we could jump with it. We would have acorn wars. We would go around and we would gather up all the acorns, put them in buckets. We would run around flinging them at each other. No safety glasses, no pads, no nothing. You know, you get hit in the eye, yeah, you might cry a little bit, but you'd suck it up and keep going. You know, now, I mean, my current wife had two children when we got together. These kids absolutely had no imagination whatsoever. You know, I bought them toys where they had to use their imagination, and they didn't know what to do with them. Well, how do you turn it on? What does it do? Well, you use your imagination. You power it. It doesn't have an on and off button. You know, it is, and it's a shame that the world has come to that, honestly. I mean, now, you know, we'd bought tablets for the kids, you know, and I kept seeing them on it all the time. Couldn't get them off of it. They would fight over the chargers, and you know, they would get upset if the battery went dead and all this kind of crap. And I finally had enough. I took the damn things away. They haven't seen them since, and that's been what, 2-3 years now. But you know what? They have an imagination now. You know, for Christmas, I bought my stepson a remote control dragon. It shoots liquid steam out. You know, it's not hot steam; it's just a vapor. But we also, well, the day after Christmas is his birthday, so I went out and I got him the Fortnite, kind of like G.I. Joe figures. They stand pretty good size, you know. And there was, what, 4 or 5 of them in the set. And he sat there after he unwrapped that present, and he had a battle between those soldiers and the dragon, you know. And he was just using his imagination. You know, it wasn't anything, you know, really. I mean, he didn't even use the remote for the dragon. He was moving the dragon by hand, and you know, yeah, it had buttons on it where you could push and make it roar and make the wings flap and all that. But you know, he spent the entire weekend playing with those soldiers and that dragon and making up all sorts of scenarios in his head, you know, and just having a grand old time with. And I looked at my wife and I go, see, it doesn't have to be a video game or any of that crap. Look at your son now. He has an imagination now. He's playing by himself. He's quiet. He's happy. He's having fun. And it's without electronics. You know. Now my wife is considerably younger than me. You know. So we have a generational gap between us, but we make it work. But she's coming around to see that the older ways, the ways that I was brought up on, are the better ways. You know, our taste in music is still in conflict, you know. She spent her formative years, you know, her teens and in the 90s, you know, and me, I spent my formative years in the 70s and 80s. So there's a huge difference in, you know, in the way that things are done. It freaked her out the first time I disciplined her kids the way that I do, you know, because I don't believe in the timeout bullshit. You know, I will put them in timeout after I pop their ass. But her kids have learned respect. When we first got together, her kids were obnoxious, disrespectful. I mean, her son drew back on her like he was going to punch her. Well, that stuff doesn't play with me. Now he respects his mama. You know, we ain't playing these games. You know, we were all going to go swimming a couple of summers ago, and he'd done something, so I said, okay, we're not going to go swimming. You know, that's all there is to that. And he threw a fit, threw himself on the floor, started kicking and punching and all sorts of stuff. I picked him up, I popped his ass 4 times, I took him in, plopped him down on his bed. I go, you can stay in here, throw all the damn fit you want, but the minute you step out of this room and you're still throwing a fit, I'm going to pop your ass again. You know, he didn't know what to think. So he just sat there with a stunned look on his face because nobody had taken a hand to him. And see, that's the problem. You know, we've become too soft on the children. We really have. I mean, people will give their kids shit just to shut them up. No. You know, if I would have thrown a fit like, or talked back like these kids do, I wouldn't have had a tooth one left in my head. You know, I mouthed off to my grandmother one time when I think I was 12. I mouthed off to her, and then I started to run away from her. Well, my grandmother always used to keep a shotgun beside the door, and she had it loaded with pork rinds and bacon grease and rock salt. You know, and she picked that damn thing up, and I'm about a half a block away. She shot me in the ass with the damn thing. I couldn't sit down for a month. Never talked back to her again. I guarantee you that rock salt hurt. I may not have been a half a block away, you know, but you get the gist. I mean, I was running away from her. She grabbed that shotgun and shot me in the ass with it. It was non-lethal, but it oh my God, it burned so bad because that rock salt embedded itself in my skin, and as the salt dissolved, it just burned and burned and burned. You know, but yeah, I learned a lesson, and I never mouthed off to her again. Nowadays, that would be considered child abuse. You know, my wife's brother, we took his kids in because they were all homeless, and we took his kids in. I bought them new clothes and all sorts of stuff, and you know, his son kept getting into our dog cage, and he was messing it up pretty good. You know, so I told him, you know, you get in there again, I'm going to zip tie it closed. So he crawls in it, and I'm in it, you ain't going to do nothing about it. So I walked over there, and I had these wide zip ties, you know, and I zip tied it, and I put like 6 of those on the door. And he's always screaming and crying and everything. So I took a pair of fingernail clippers, I tossed them in there to him. I go, here, let yourself out. This kid, it shows how ill-educated children are now. I mean, he took the file part of the fingernail clippers, and he's sitting there and he's rubbing across the zip ties, trying to get it to cut through it. I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, really? You know, and then he throws them out, and he starts screaming and crying, I can't do nothing with that, it'll take forever. I walked over there with him, and I used the clipper parts, and I clipped one of the zip ties, and I tossed them back into him. I go, now let yourself out. He sat there stunned for about 10 minutes, didn't know what the hell to say. Clipped the rest of the ties and let himself out. I go, you get back in there again, and I'll put a padlock on the damn thing and leave you in there all night. Now, I told you to stay out of it. Either stay out of it, or you pay the consequences. You know, but according to his daddy, my wife's brother, oh, that's child abuse. That is child abuse. I ain't figured out exactly how that was abuse, but You know, he actually called up the Department of Child and Family Services and told them that I abused his son and told them what I did and everything. And they actually came out to my house and questioned me about it. I told them exactly how it was. You know, and they never heard another word from them, you know, except a letter from them stating that it was an unfounded case of child abuse and that the case was closed. You know, and people want to cry child abuse over the stupidest things. See, those are laws that have overstepped their bounds. Is there child abuse? Yes. But to take your hand and pop your kid on the ass as a form of correction, that is not child abuse. Okay? You know, to deprive your child of a meal because of something that they'd done, that is not child abuse. That was done to me as a kid. I went to bed hungry many a night because of that. You know, these child abuse laws have overstepped their bounds, just like the child support laws have overstepped their bounds. Okay? I don't need the court or the state to tell me that I should support my children. And, you know, when me and my ex-wife have an agreement between the two of us, the state needs to stay the hell out of it. If me and her have worked it out and I'm doing everything that we agreed to, why do I need the state involved? I take the money, I hand it to her. I don't need it to go through the state and the state give it to her. But according to them, that they have to be involved in it. Why? I could see if she calls the state and says, hey, look, you know, he's not paying me any support. But unless she asks for help, they don't need to have their damn fingers in it. Because they'll take $200 and okay, I give my ex-wife $180 a week for child support. When the state's involved, they take $240 out of my pay. Where's that extra $60 going? Because she's not getting it. So where is that extra $60 gone to? I'd like an explanation. Excuse me. I called them about it before. Oh, those are processing and administrative fees. $60 a week, really? I can hire an accountant cheaper than that. You know, that's what I said. Government has overstepped their bounds on a lot of things. You know, I myself am fed up with it. I'm betting a lot of you out there are too. But this video's running long. Sorry I've rambled on and on. I got off my subject, but you know, I just speak from my heart and whatever comes to my mind. You know, I appreciate each and every one of you that follows me and watches my videos. If you like my content and you're a new subscriber or a new viewer, please subscribe, hit the like button, share my content, ring that little bell so that you get notified whenever I put up a new video. I appreciate your time. This is Dan with We the People. God bless each and every one of you. Have a wonderful night. I will talk to you again in another video. Bye-bye.